Starting 8 weeks ago, the rule is game. I'm the boss here, I'll take fame with my fantasy team. Gonna rise to the top, no one can stop me. Gonna make 'em drop.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks Ago, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. This is the preview show to Gameweek 8. So, let's get into it. If you remember the last international break, we came back with lofty expectations and they were quickly shattered. Pretty much everybody that had travelled underperformed. Remember, everybody was like, João Pedro. And then he went to Brazil, came back. I don't even think he's played since that game week. He came, I think he played for like 2 minutes, got injured, and that was that. So the most important thing is to know who your internationals are and how far they have come or how far they have travelled. The farther they have come from, the less likely they are to feature and the less likely they are to perform. The most important thing about the international game week is that there's a strong possibility of injuries. So what I will do now is go over every team and the injury doubts and injuries that they have. Let's start with Arsenal. Saka picked up a leg injury during England's match and he's doubtful. He may play, he may not play. We need to hear what Arteta says. But he tends to keep that close to his chest. Kai Havertz didn't play during the international break because he had a knee injury. They say he has 75% chance of playing, so he is better than Saka in terms of his injury situation. Odegaard is still out. Zinchenko should be back. Ben White still has a groin injury, and it should keep him out of this next game, but he should be back within 2 weeks. When it comes to Villa, Konza has a hamstring injury, pulled out of England. They say he has a 75% chance of coming back. Kamara is injured, has a 50% chance of playing. John McGinn has a hamstring injury that will keep him out of the next game, but will be back within the next 2. Tyrone Mings is almost back. When it comes to Tottenham, Son is still injured. He's back in training, but it's uncertain whether he'll feature in the next game. Richarlison is back in training, but is unlikely to start. Bagval got injured. Odegaard got injured, has a hamstring injury, is unlikely to start. Martinelli also picked up a knock. It's not clear. It was in the calf. It's not clear what will happen. Watch that space. Garnacho did not go for international duty due to some knee problems, and it isn't clear whether he is back, but watch that in case you have him. Mazrui is also another player who got injured, and it isn't clear whether he will be back. He had heart palpitations, so that might be more serious. Harry Maguire is also out. Kobe Mainu and Diallo are also out. So that Manu press conference will be interesting because who will play? Mikolenko is out, and it's yet to see where he will be come this weekend. Brennan Johnson picked up a knock playing for Wales. It is not clear whether he will be back, but that is something to watch out for. Alisson is out for at least a month. Sasa Lukic from Fulham also picked up an injury. Wang Hee-chan, otherwise known as the Korean guy from Wolves, got an injury. And Ugarte has also sort of picked up an injury. For Bournemouth, it's Tyler Adams who is out. For Brentford, Rico Henry is out. Josh De Silva, Aaron Hickey, Igor Thiago, Jensen, Gustavo Nunes, Wissa, and Damsgaard. For Brighton, Matt O'Reilly, Adingra, Van Hecke, João Pedro, Solly March, James Milner, Jorginho, and Webster are out. For Chelsea, Carney Chukwuemeka, Kellyman, and Reece James are out. For Crystal Palace, Chad Riyad, Mateus Franca, Doucouré, Munoz, and Wharton are out. Apart from Mikolenko, for Everton, Branthwaite is still out. Coleman, Broja, Chemiti, and Patterson are out. Carlos Vinicius and Sasa Lukic are out for Fulham. For Ipswich, Kajust, Al-Hamadi, Luongo, and Twanzebe are out. For Leicester, Patson Daka, Solaric, and Chaudhry are out. Apart from Alisson, Chiesa and Harvey Elliott are out. For Man City, Bob, Ake, KDB, and Rodri are out. For Newcastle, Botman, Lascelles, Wilson, Isak, Target, Dubravka, and Trippier are out. For Nottingham Forest, we have Danilo, Sangare, Morgan Gibbs-White, and Matt Sells. For Southampton, we have Bazunu, Soleimana, Smallbone, and Ross Stewart. For West Ham, Fulkrug is out. For Wolves, Enzo Gonzalez, Boubacar Traore, Sasa Kalacic, Yason Masquera, Mepiu, and the aforementioned Wang Hee-chan are out. So, approaching game week 8 for me means that I have to change what I've been doing. I have been in a recent slump. I got 38 in the 2 game weeks ago, and then I got 32 in this last game week. So for me, that meant I had to use my wild card. The problem with my team is that I was entering a situation where my players were not playing, and I therefore want to use this opportunity to pick players who are in form and players who I believe will be in form for a little bit. So I don't trust my judgment much. Well, I do, but I'm not number 1 in the world, so I trust number 1 in the world a little bit better than I do myself. So what I've done is I've looked at a combination of the top 5 teams and tried to get as many of those players into my team so that I don't get blinded by my own judgment, but incorporate those who are performing better than I am. So to that end, I have brought in Palmer, Saka, Brennan Johnson into my team, and Collins from Brentford. Yeah, then hopefully that should help change my fortunes in a positive direction. So in order to get those players, I had to release a lot of expensive defenders that I had. I had Robertson, I had Vardiol, and I have decided to just move off of them for now. I've also gotten off of Raya as he's a bit expensive and he's not sort of keeping clean sheets anymore. Arsenal are still great defense, so I have Gabriel. And yeah, that's my team. You will see it. I still have Haaland, and his partners are Wood and Raul Jimenez. I was thinking of bringing Liam Delap in, but I just decided to go with Raul, just for now. At the back, in case you're wondering what the rest of my defense looks like, it's just a bunch of 4-point-something people. Faiz from Leicester, Keane from Everton, Collins from Brentford, Lewis from Manchester City, and then Gabriel. And then my keepers are Sanchez and Sells. But I just saw that Sells is not looking so good right now. He might be injured. So I might move to a different keeper. But we will see. So the weekend will kick off with a London derby. Tottenham versus West Ham. Son, Richarlison and Odegaard will be doubtful for this game, and Fulkrug will be doubtful for the West Ham side. Spurs have been in good form in the last 5 games, winning 4 of the 5. They lost in a very unfortunate way to Brighton, and I'm sure they'll be looking to correct their ways in this next match. In their last 5 encounters, West Ham have won twice, drawn twice, and Tottenham have won once. So it looks like West Ham are the favoured side in this encounter. West Ham hammered Ipswich last time out, with Antonio, Kudus, Bowen and Paqueta scoring. And literally those are the top players I would recommend from West Ham. And then maybe Souček because he seems to be performing more consistently this time around. From Spurs, it's very clear. It's Brennan Johnson, Kulusevski and Solanke. I wouldn't rush to Son just yet because we don't know if he'll play and if he plays for how long. But those other 3 are the best. Of course, Maddison. So I'll put it in this order. Brennan Johnson, Maddison, Solanke, Kulusevski. Moving on to Fulham versus Aston Villa. Fulham lost to Man City last time out, and if you ask me, they should have won that game. If Traore was a better finisher, first of all, he wouldn't be at Fulham, but they would have won this game at least 5-3 or 5-4 or 6-4. They were just the better team in terms of chances that were created in their clear-cutness. I've never seen Kyle Walker made to look so slow in my entire life. But then Adama Traore is a different type of beast. In that game, Pereira and Muniz were the goal scorers. Emil Smith-Rowe did not start for tactical reasons, but I believe for Aston Villa he should be starting. Jimenez had an assist, and when I look at this team, honestly, I think Traore would be a very big wildcard. If he hits, he will hit. But the more likely people are Jimenez, who has had a goal or an assist in each of the few games he has started, and Pereira, and then Emil Smith-Rowe. If you want to gamble on the defense, that's also fine. I would suggest Robinson, because he has a potential for assists. And at this point, it seems like nobody's really keeping a clean sheet. So you might as well get somebody who will at least contribute positive attacking returns. Aston Villa drew last time out with Man U, and it was a weird game. I thought Villa should have done more, but it just went the way it went. Watkins, Morgan Rogers, Bailey are the best attacking threats. Digne, Konsa, and Martinez are the best defensive options from their team. Out of the last 5 encounters, Aston Villa have won 4 of them. So they are clearly the favoured option in this fixture. Ipswich versus Everton. Ipswich, up until last week, had been looking like they were just on the cusp of getting a victory. And then they were promptly hammered by West Ham. The Hammers hammered them. Anyway, Everton, on the other hand, have been okay. They beat Crystal Palace and then they drew with Newcastle. Gordon missed a penalty. They were fortunate, but they kept the clean sheet. Pickford is back. We're just waiting for Branthwaite to be back, and then we will be confident in their solidity. This is a perfect game for both of them. I believe this is a winnable game for both of these teams. Liam Delap, Leif Davis, Hutchinson are the 3 players I would recommend from Ipswich, but only really get one, and that is Delap. From Everton, you're really only getting Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Dwight McNeil, and maybe Ndiaye. Their defense is not yet there, and they will be better once they get their people back. But for now, temporarily forget that they have defenders, so don't be tempted by Pickford. Manchester United versus Brentford. As you heard a little earlier, Manchester United have a bunch of injuries. So much so it'll be interesting to see who starts in this game. Their form has been poor of late, and on the other hand, Brentford have been in great form of late, scoring in like 4 of their games in under 2 minutes. Their head-to-head favours Man U, with Brentford winning 1, drawing 1, and losing 3. But with recent form, I would believe that it would sway to Brentford. And if you believe that, Mbomo should be your first option from this team. Then maybe Collins, who's a defender, and maybe Carvalho or Norgard. At this point, Manchester United will just put the 11 that are available. If you believe that they will be good, I struggle to recommend a player from this team, but Fernandes, Rashford, and Onana, it will be a tough one for them. Apart from the game where they scored 3 against Southampton, in the Premier League they have been really struggling to score goals. They have barely gotten 5 goals so far. And therefore you're more likely to get a result from their defense than their offense. But given that they have so many missing players, it's a gamble. Moving on to Newcastle versus Brighton. Newcastle have been piling up injuries slowly but surely, especially in their forward line. And a lot of responsibility has fallen onto the hands of Anthony Gordon, who cracked last time against Everton by missing the penalty. But to be fair, he probably shouldn't have been the one taking the penalty against his former club. Especially he'd been there since he was 11. I think that was just too much for him. He should be okay in this game, alongside with Harvey Barnes. After that, either Joelinton or Guimaraes would be a good option for you. Brighton, on the other hand, had quite an entertaining game last time out, coming back from 2-0 to defeat the Spurs 3-2. Mente, Jorginho and Welbeck were the scorers. Jorginho Rata picked up a knock and he will be doubtful for this fixture. I would encourage you to choose Welbeck, Mente or Mitoma. Don't count on Brighton defense. However, this is the kind of game which could just be 0-0, you know? Looking at their first 5 fixtures, or rather their last 5 fixtures against each other, it seems like both sides tend to score. Newcastle have won 2, Brighton have won 1, and they've drawn 2. So it's an evenly matched game. So it'll be hard to call. Southampton versus Leicester. Southampton were nice last time out when they played against a fellow relegation rival. They should have beaten Ipswich if it wasn't for Morsey's last-minute goal. So I believe they will be very competitive in this fixture. However, I believe Leicester have returned and adjusted well to the Premier League. I am even so confident in them that I am placing one of their defenders, Faish, as my starting defender in this fixture. Southampton scored first against Arsenal. It wasn't good enough and they lost 3-1. Now, if you're going to choose a Southampton player, I think you really have maybe 2, if I'm honest, 2 players. Dibbling and Archer. I can't see why you would get more than one, but those are the 2 I'd recommend. If you're going to Leicester, Jamie Vardy is always an option. I have brought in Bonanote because I believe he will be good in this fixture. And if you're looking for somebody at the back, I would get Faish. Leicester did beat Bournemouth last time out, and they looked good. Another quiet, sneaky good player from that team you could get is James Justin. He has been good over the last 2 to 3 games, getting really good attacking returns. Bournemouth versus Arsenal. When looking at their recent history, Arsenal have been on top of Bournemouth for the longest time. They are the better team by however you want to measure it. Their form, their recent head-to-head, it's just looking like Bournemouth have no chance, given by the stats in this fixture. However, Arsenal have potentially very many people missing out. Saka is doubtful, Havertz is doubtful, Martinelli is doubtful. Don't get me wrong, they still have plenty in the tank. And you've seen that since Odegaard left. I'm just wondering how many players are enough to derail them a bit. Is this a number? The thing is, Arteta keeps his cards close to his chest. So we actually won't know who will be playing for real until kickoff. If Saka, Havertz are back in time, they will start and it should be, I don't say routine victory, but the results should go in their favour. If everyone is fit, Saka, Havertz are your top 2 options and then Trossard. If Saka and Havertz do not play, then it would have to be Trossard as your first choice and then maybe lean on the defenders. The one that you like is the right answer, although I'd probably go with Gabriel. On the Bournemouth side, this is not a game to bank on their defense. Semenyo, Kluivert, Tavernier are your best hopes for any form of returns in this fixture. Bournemouth were beaten by Leicester last time out, so I'm not sure that their confidence will be high going from losing to Leicester to going to play the second best team in England. Arsenal beat Southampton last time out, and they should continue from strength to strength. Wolves versus Manchester City, that'll be the Sunday game. Now, Wolves have been in poor form. To be fair to them, they have had maybe the toughest opening fixtures of the Premier League compared to any other team. And after their next fixture, which is Brighton, things will get easier for them. They have been unable to defend. We have spoken about how losing Kilman has been detrimental to their defense. Then Mosquera got injured. They've also lost Neto, which makes it harder for them to hold the ball, which means they're easier to attack, and also they're not so good going forward. Having said that, Strand Larsen Ait Nouri and Cunha are literally the only three players that you should consider from this team until somebody else shows up. From the Manchester City side, Haaland, if he's in your team, should be the one. If he's not in your team, you should look into Savinho. Grealish looks to have been picking up form. And maybe Foden. The marquee game of the weekend will see Chelsea take on Liverpool. Apart from the very last game, the most recent encounter, which was 4-1 in favor of Liverpool, this encounter has generated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 draws in the last 8 fixtures. And that goes to show that this is a tight game. However, these are two new managers, Slot and Maresca. Will they open a new chapter into this rivalry? Now, Liverpool have many players coming in from far. However, Salah was sent home early, and this extra few days might help him be extra prepared for the day. As for the South Americans, it'll be touch and go, and I'm sure one of them will not start. And by that, it's probably Diaz who may not start. But it's a big game, so it'll probably be him and Jota starting. But with Slot, he started this unpredictable rotation. Robertson and Diaz did not start that last game. The game before that, Jota did not start. So he's trying to keep them fresh. I mean, they're challenging on many fronts, so maybe that's about it. But this sort of roulette is making Diaz not look like such a great option, because now it could be Gakpo and Nunez who play this game. We just simply do not know. Alisson is injured, Chiesa is injured, Elliott is injured. Which means that in goal, Kelleher, if that's how you say it, will be starting. Jaros only started the previous game because Kelleher was unavailable through sickness. He seems to be well now. He played for his country in the international Gameweek, and so he will be now the de facto number one. So if you're thinking it's Jaros, it won't be. On the Chelsea side, Cucurella and Fofana are suspended, which means that Liverpool will have maybe an easier time playing their defense. However, Chelsea have such a deep squad. It's probably going to be Vega who will play and make a difference. It will be interesting to see who plays in defense. I can't really tell you who that will be right now, but nobody's really entering this game thinking of Liverpool, Chelsea. Ooh, let me get into Chelsea defense. No. You're probably looking into their attackers. And as we have known for a while, it should be Palmer, now Nicholas Jackson. The thing also with Nicholas Jackson is, even though I do recommend him, it is possible that he will get suspended for the brawl that happened against Nottingham Forest. As of yet, it is now Thursday. I have not heard anything, and he is still available to play. So choose him. Him, Palmer, and probably Nkunku, because Madueke is injured. He may not play, but let's wait and see. But Palmer and Nicholas Jackson should be your first two choices. The last match of the game week will see Nottingham Forest take on Crystal Palace. Nottingham Forest have been sneaky good this season. I thought they would struggle, but they have been much better than I had anticipated. I'm not sure what has changed, but they have been better defensively. If you saw Sells and Martinez for Chelsea go at it at the end, they made incredible saves in the Forest-Chelsea game. And that has given me confidence to choose Sells as my keeper. Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White is doubtful, so I wouldn't recommend him with confidence. But Wood, Elanga and Hudson-Odoi are your best options going forward. On the back, you have Ola Aina and a guy called Milenkovic. Those should be your best options at the back. Also Sells, of course. Now, they are playing Crystal Palace. It's very painful to watch Crystal Palace right now. They seem to have an idea of what they want to do. They just seem incapable of executing it. Eze is not strong enough on his own. And when you see what Tolise is doing in the Bundesliga, you can see that he really does deserve to be playing at Bayern Munich. Crystal Palace really had a gem. Nketiah is no Olise, but maybe something will come about. But for now, they are the most disappointing team so far of the season compared to what I thought they would be and where they are and how they're playing. If you were choosing a Crystal Palace player, of course, Mateta, Eze, and maybe Gay or Henderson, their keeper, if you're looking at their defense. But don't get into their defense right now. Mateta and Eze, but just don't get into Crystal Palace right now, especially if you have options elsewhere. Now, I'm just going to look at the fixture difficulty rating. Over the next 5 weeks, Arsenal have Bournemouth, Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest. If you're looking to get out of Arsenal defenders, this is it. This is the time. Aston Villa have Fulham, Bournemouth, Tottenham, Liverpool, Crystal Palace. So it's not as difficult as Arsenal's, but it's not easy either. Bournemouth have Arsenal, Aston Villa, Manchester City, then Brentford and Brighton. Don't get their defense. Brentford have Manchester United, Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton. Mbumo all the way. I'm just here wondering how I can get Mbumo into my wildcard team. Brighton have Newcastle, Wolves, Liverpool, Manchester City, and Bournemouth. Wow. Their manager is going to be in for a really tough test. Chelsea have Liverpool, Newcastle, Manchester United, Arsenal, and Leicester. Goodness, those are a tough bunch of fixtures. Liverpool, Arsenal, Crystal Palace have Nottingham, Spurs, Wolves, Fulham, Villa. All winnable games and all losable games. Everton have Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham, Brentford. These are all winnable games for them. Fulham have Villa, Everton, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Wolves. This could be a good time to get into Fulham. Ipswich have Everton, Brentford, Leicester, Spurs, Man United. There's nothing like an easy fixture list for Ipswich right now, so they'll just take whatever comes. Leicester have Southampton, Forest, Ipswich, Man United, Chelsea. So it increases in difficulty, but it's okay. Liverpool have Chelsea, then Arsenal, then Brighton, then Aston Villa, then Southampton. That's a bunch of tough fixtures. So far, it seems like the top teams have tough fixtures coming up. It might be time to look a bit lower on the table. Having said that, Man City have Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton, and Tottenham. Man United have Brentford, West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester, Ipswich. In theory, these are all easy games, but Man United have been unconvincing so far. But this would be a good stretch to remedy that. Newcastle have Brighton, Chelsea, Arsenal, Forest, West Ham. These are all tricky fixtures for them. Forest have Crystal Palace, Leicester, West Ham, Newcastle, Arsenal. So it just increases in difficulty gradually. Southampton have Leicester, City, Everton, Wolves, and Liverpool. Those are tough fixtures. Spurs have West Ham, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Ipswich, and Man City. In theory, they should win 3 out of those 5 games. West Ham have Spurs, Man United, Forest, Everton, Newcastle. It's a bit of a mixed bag. I could see them winning all of these games, but I could see them losing 2 or 3 of them. Wolves have Manchester City, which will be a difficult game for them. Then they have Brighton, which will be less difficult. Then Crystal Palace, Southampton, and Fulham, which are all winnable games for Wolves. So after the Man City game, it might be time to start looking at Ait Nouri and Cunha and Strand Larsen. And with that, I hope I've helped create more options and given you ideas of what's coming as to plan as to how to choose your players. Outside that, I hope you've rested well over this international break. Business resumes on Saturday. See you on the pitch. Bye.